There is no worse feeling than loading into a lobby and coming face to face with a Smurf. Immediately you assume your ranked game is pretty much lost and you might as well forfeit as soon as you get the chance. That is, until today. You see, in today's video, we'll be teaching you 5 things that will give you the best chance to be successful against the Smurfs of Rocket League. Now, there are 5 things that we can do that will give us the best chance possible to take down the Smurfs we may run into. And in reality, these things will also work against pretty much any high-rated player. So as you find yourself climbing the ranked ladder, these tips will be useful in just your everyday normal games. Now, this first tip is the one that will probably put you in the best position to be successful. And the idea is simply that you need to read your opponent's car. So let's go ahead and roll this first clip forward and we'll see exactly where things might go wrong as Zebra's gonna carry this ball into the midfield, and you can see that we just kind of back off and allow that air dribble to come across, and that's the exact thing we need to avoid. So now, why exactly might we have found ourselves on the backboard here and then just lingering along the backboard as this air dribble comes across? Well, the only reason we would do that is if we're afraid of this ball getting directly to the net and getting over us, which when we're playing against Smurfs, we might give them a little too much respect, a little too much space, and now all of a sudden we're opening up opportunities in the midfield for them to get infield passes off. So number 1, we need to be aware first and foremost of where our own teammates are. So in this situation, we have one teammate out here and our other teammate is back behind us in the net. With the fact that we are out here on the backboard, this is going to be our responsibility to cover. So then it all comes down to just understanding where exactly Zebra here is going with the ball. And if you watch his car as he goes into this air dribble, you can see that the position he's in is really not threatening in the slightest. So as he goes for this touch, you realize that he doesn't get the first initial touch on the wall. He actually has to reset his car and jump off again. And as he goes into the air here, you can see that his car is just entirely on the side of the ball. So it's going to be very difficult for him to get any kind of forward momentum going with this air dribble because of the positioning that his car has in relation to the ball. So knowing that, we now already know that this ball is pretty much going directly sideways, and because we can identify that, that's our green light to push forward and cut out this space in the midfield. And that is why reading the opponent's car is so important, because if we had just simply identified that the only place he could really go was into the midfield, we would already, as we land here, be able to push on forward into the area that he's coming to, and right here we'd be able to jump up to get a touch, but more or less we'd at least be denying this space. Instead, we give them way too much respect as if they're somehow going to get this ball over us from that kind of position. We back off back to net even though it's already covered by our teammate, and now just like that, we give away a free pass into the midfield, and the ball is just into the net. So you're gonna want to pay very close attention to how your opponent's car is positioned so that you can understand where the play is going ahead of time, because if we do that, we're able to cut things off a lot easier without having to react at the last second to what our opponents are trying to do. Now, for tip number 2, we want to talk about something that's going to help us be as supportive as possible for our teammates. And when it comes to playing against Smurfs, being supportive for your team is extremely important. The more players you have back on defense, the harder it's going to be for that better player to break you guys down. The second you leave only a solo defender back, now all of a sudden they are at a massive disadvantage against the other team, and you are almost definitely going to be scored on. So let's take a look at this moment here as we just go absolutely flying out of the play, landing in our opponent's net, leaving one person back to try to defend against an onslaught of attackers from the blue team. Naturally, the 50 is lost and that ball is just in the net. So, let's discuss this overall, because obviously we want to deny the space there in the midfield, but we also don't want to be leaving our teammate back alone stranded on 0 boost with the entire team coming at them. So, right here, we pick up this corner boost. Immediately as we grab this boost, we need to identify now that our teammate here is going to be starved. So now it is even more important that we don't send ourselves flying out of the play, because not only would that be leaving our teammate alone to defend, but we'd also be putting them in a situation where they have to do it on 0 boost. So very important to identify this as quickly as possible so that you understand the situation your team is in. As you move up the field, because I do agree we should be applying pressure in this midfield area, we just need to keep our eyes on who is most likely to touch the ball next. So as we move upfield, we see a possible 50-50 coming out. Obviously, in this case, it doesn't actually happen. But as we continue to move forward, we need to identify who is most likely to touch the ball next, and we need to consider how much closer they are to the ball and the speed at which they're moving towards it. Because obviously right here, Zebra is already jumping and he is right next to the ball. We're also currently jumping, but look at how far away we are. So because of this gap, it makes it super easy for Zebra to just get this ball over the top of us, which realistically is totally fine as long as we're still in a supported position to be able to continue the defensive rotation with our teammates. The problem happens when we throw ourselves out of the play, and now that is both ourselves and our teammates stuck in our opponent's half, leaving that third defender back completely by themselves. So in these spots, we just need to identify, are we beat to the ball? If the answer is yes, we absolutely do not want to full send at it. So as we move up the field here, our eyes at this moment should already be on Zebra, trying to figure out if we're going to be beat. As soon as we can tell that we're going to be beat, which we can already tell right now, we want to just drive forward, apply this pressure, that's fine, force him to make this touch that just booms it into our half, because what that'll do is it'll send the ball loosely into our half, our teammate can turn on it initially, and we can then swoop back around and reestablish our defensive rotation while we continue to buy time for our third man to come back. So we drive forward, we don't jump, we force out this touch, we just rotate back this way. So let's just say we're somewhere around here right now. All right, we're coming on back. We're coming on back. All right, now our teammate can challenge this, no problem. And now we're right here. And just like that, we'll have a free clear back to the corner, and we're in front of the net. You can see our other teammate is coming back, but he's coming back from the corner, which means there's no one currently in the net to stop any kind of incoming shots, as opposed to if someone had rotated back right here. So make sure you're not sending yourself flying out of the play. Do not leave your teammates alone on defense, because at the end of the day, if you leave your teammate alone in a defensive situation against multiple members of the other team, you really cannot be expecting them to actually be successful in that kind of position. This next clip will encompass two of the mistakes that we absolutely need to avoid, and in all honesty, if you're making one of these mistakes, you're probably making the other one as well. And the two mistakes we're going to talk about here are panicking and wasting your boost. So as we play this forward, you can see we are moving upfield here, ball going to be popped towards the backboard. Clear is going to come out. We're sitting in the midfield with 61 boosts as this play starts to move downfield. And now we're down to 0. We missed the corner. And yeah, you can see not a whole lot of great play throughout this transition from defense to offense from our opponents. So let's talk about this, because as you're playing against high-rated players, the very important thing is that you need to make sure you have resources to make a play, and you also need to put yourself in spots on the field to be able to make a play when the opportunity presents itself. So as this ball gets popped up, this is relatively fine. We're just chilling in the midfield, totally all well and good. Right here, this ball is going to get cleared out towards the right. So as this touch comes off the backboard, the first thing we need to notice is, all right, we are not jumping for this. That's good. Do not jump. Very, very good. We can just wait calmly here. There really is no threat if a pass even does come out this way, because the player that is over there for the blue team is currently rotating on his way back. So he's going to have to make an awkward turn up the wall, and it's really not the most dangerous thing on the face of the planet. Plus, we can see we have a teammate moving over in that direction, so we're really not worried if a ball goes over to the right-hand side here. So we're cool just to chill and see where this ball goes. So we wait patiently. This is totally fine. This touch comes out. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to chase the ball. Because when we chase the ball, it means that number one, we're going to burn a lot of our boost to do so. And number two, it means that as the ball goes this way, we also go that way, obviously. But if there is an opposing player over here who then hits the ball back that way, well, now we're all the way over here and we have to readjust to wherever that ball goes. So that's why you want to just play ahead of the ball. You don't want to chase where it's going now. you want to make sure you're playing ahead and cutting off where it's about to go. So we can see that this player here is also going to attempt to stay on this ball, so we can expect either possibly a double tap, maybe a pinch of some kind down the field. Realistically, the ball is probably not going to stay over near this sidewall. It's probably going to go either into our own corner or back into the midfield. So with that in mind, we want to put ourselves in a spot on the field where we can cover as many options as possible. So because we can assume that this ball is not going to stay near this sidewall, we can just stay in the middle of the field and drive calmly back towards our net without really using any boost at all. So let's just say we stayed right here in the midfield. Just like this. You can see Yoza coming back, quite an awkward angle. We also have a teammate there challenging right away. So definitely not a threatening ball. This is totally fine. If our opponents here get some kind of crazy pinch and this thing goes right into our net, well, you just kind of tip your cap to them and say, well done, because there's not a whole lot you can really do to prepare for that. But positioning in a neutral spot that gives us coverage of as many things as possible is what we really want to go for. Because from here, if our opponent pinches the ball into our corner, we can just keep going on our merry way to go cut that off. If the ball comes back into the midfield from this ensuing challenge, we're also right here to be able to turn quickly and cut that off as well. So this is the kind of positioning we want to have. We don't want to be in spots like this where we burn a bunch of boost to go into a position on the field where we're doing absolutely nothing. Because as you can see, we're all the way over there, and this ball does indeed come back into the midfield. So if we were again positioned right here, totally fine. We have this cut, no problem. But instead, we burned like 40 boost and we're all the way over here. So now we can't turn to make a play on this ball. So now once we put ourselves in this kind of spot, it's no longer really about our opponents actually beating us. We've pretty much beaten ourselves by giving up all this space in the midfield. Because at this point, we really can't afford to turn back into this play to challenge the ball, because we're going to be completely beat to it. We also can't afford to try to cut off any possible passing lane here, because it's also very possible that Zebra just takes a direct shot on net. So we've kind of stranded ourselves in no man's land where we can't really do anything to have a positive impact on the play, and we're forced to just react to what our opponents do. And as soon as you force yourself to react to your opponents, you all of a sudden are gonna panic a lot more. So you can see here that we are just in total panic now. We try to rush back towards our own corner, and then because of our panic, we burn the 23 boost we had left. We try to pick up this corner, and we completely drive right past it. So now, not only are we in a panic, but we're also in a panic while on 0 boost. And you know, we wouldn't be on 0 boost if we hadn't tried to chase the play in the first place, and instead had just read what was actually going on and positioned accordingly. But instead, we're completely panicked, we missed the boost, everyone's just jumping and flailing around trying to get some kind of touch on the ball. Meanwhile, the offense is just completely toying with us, and they're able to pop it right on over the top, while we are absolutely flailing around on the defensive end. So just make sure you take a moment, take a breath, look for where the play is most likely to go, and position smartly. The more times you can position in a neutral spot that allows you to cut off anything the opponent might go for, the more effective you will be in putting a stop to their offensive attacks. The second that you start to chase the ball around the field and you put yourself in a position where you actually can't impact the play at all is the moment that you give all the space in the world to your opponents, and when you're dealing with Smurfs, they're absolutely going to punish you for that. Now, lastly, when it comes to taking down Smurfs, it is incredibly important that we play with confidence. So often we recognize that we're playing against a higher rated player, and all of a sudden we lose our faith in ourselves to challenge the ball effectively. So if worst comes to worst, you just need to tell yourself to go for it, because if you start to hesitate on the field, you're just going to be giving space away to your opponents. So looking at this last example, it's going to be very important for you to identify when you just need to full send your car at the ball. So at this point right here, we're seeing Zebra go up into the air. We have one teammate coming back over here and another one coming back on this side of the field. So with that in mind, we don't need to buy a whole lot of time because our team is coming back behind us. So because we have players coming back, that then makes us first man up on this play. And unlike when we're in that second man position and we need to be a little bit more selective about our challenges, when we are first man, we have a full green light to pretty much go as hard as humanly possible. So looking at this one right here, Zebra's going to pop this ball up, and it looks like he may be going for an air dribble, but this goes back to our very first tip of reading your opponent's car. As soon as we see him point his nose back down to the ground, right here, this is our green light to go challenge this ball. Because as soon as he points his nose to the ground like this, he no longer has any ability to get back to this ball, and if we just went fast, we realistically could have a wide open net. But instead, again, we think, oh gosh, these guys are higher rated than me, I don't want to get beat, so I'm just going to give them space to work with, and in doing so, you actually put both yourself and your teammates in really awkward spots. Because as you are not challenging this ball, your teammates are sitting behind you just waiting for you to put in this challenge, and now you're just allowing your opponents to get a more effective shot off, and this leaves your teammates in a spot where they have to react a lot faster to what your opponents are doing because the play is not being forced by someone on their own team. If in this instance, this ball had just been forced off of Zebra, either A, this thing would have been boomed downfield and it would have been absolutely no issue, or we would have forced an earlier touch and we would have been able to play proactively, rather than turning off like this, which again gives up space to these opponents, and when they have space, they're going to make their shots a lot more deadly. Now, obviously, this is not going to guarantee that you're going to be able to win against every Smurf that you play, but if you follow these steps, you not only will be able to give yourself a better chance, honestly, Smurfs aside, these tips will help you compete against any player you may come across as you climb up the rank ladder. Of course, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate each and every one of you who made it to this point in the video, and I do hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, make sure you click that subscribe button right down below, so you make sure you don't miss any future Rocket League content. Additionally, if you'd like to be a bit more involved in the community we're building here, feel free to check out my Discord, which I'll have linked down in the description. And as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. See you later, guys.